The Browns are now 3-2 after falling to the Chargers by 5 on Sunday and losing to the Chiefs week 1 by 3 points. Cleveland is currently third in the AFC North. Baker Mayfield, 22 of 32 for 305 yards and 2 TDs against LA Sunday. Here's Stephen A. on Baker earlier this week.
Here's the real. You ain't talking about you ain't winning no title with no Baker Mayfield. It's too many roadblocks. You look at the Cleveland Browns, it's because of Myles Garrett and that crew on defense and because of what they got going on in the backfield that makes you say they're going to be just fine. When you think about the Cleveland Browns, you think about everything but the quarterback. Anytime that's the case, it ain't going to give you a Super Bowl, bro.
Well, this happened on the gram. Baker highlighting SA's quotes. You can see right there. Here's the real. You ain't winning no title with Baker Mayfield as your quarterback. So Baker clearly taking notice of that. Stephen A.,
yeah.
I'll pick it up with you. Can the Browns win the title with Baker Mayfield? Do you stand by what you said?
Yes. I didn't stutter. I reminded the world last night. I still feel that way. Listen, let me be very, very clear because I want to make sure everybody understands something. I lamented Baker Mayfield when he had more progressive commercials than wins. That's no longer the case.
Yep.
This brother has accepted that leadership role. He is not a scrub. I admire and respect him and how far he's gotten in his life and his career, considering some of the troubles that he had when he was younger. This dude is something special, and I get all of that. What I'm trying to say, Marcus, is that so much time we spend on focusing on the individual, and we don't spend enough time focusing on the level of competition they're going up against. Did you see the show that Lamar Jackson put on Monday night? Did you see the show that Josh Allen put on Sunday night? Did you see the show that Justin Herbert put on Sunday afternoon? Do you know anything about Patrick Mahomes? I'm giving you 4. I didn't mention Tennessee and how they've come on as of late. Talk about 5 different teams you're going to have to contend with. And I'm saying when you look at Cleveland as a team, I love their GM, a brother, by the way. It's beautiful to see that. Mr. Berry being in that position, an African-American being able to run a franchise. Very proud of what he has done. Kevin Stefanski, the son of a dear friend of mine, Ed Stefanski, who I've known for many, many years, a wonderful human being. And Kevin Stefanski, I think, is a wonderful coach doing a hell of a job. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt can run that football. That's why they got one of the top 2 rushing attacks in football. Let's be clear about that. Their defense led by Myles Garrett and those boys. Number 2 against the rush. I get all of that. My issue is when it comes time, if you find yourself in a situation where your quarterback has to deliver the goods, I see at least 4 options that I would pick in the AFC alone ahead of Baker Mayfield. And these are individuals he, in all likelihood, will have to encounter to get the Browns to a Super Bowl. And that's where I have my question mark. He is the question mark for the Cleveland Browns. Not because he's a scrub, because he's not. Not because he can't play, because he can. It's because of them standing in his way. That's where I stand.
Marcus, where are you on this?
I think he can win a title, and 2 things can be true. I understand what Stephen A. is saying about that, and it's something that I've said. At some point, he's going to have to stare down the quarterback on the other side and outperform him in the last-minute drive. And right now, Baker in this season is 0-2. But the question is, can the Browns win a title with Baker Mayfield? Yes, they absolutely can. Now, it's going to take some things from the guys around him and him being insulated a little bit, and he's going to have to make a few plays. But when I watched that Charger game, I watched the defense give up 47 points. And I get it. I get it that Baker had 1:05 left, and I think I absolutely believe that in those moments, he needs to deliver. Last year, when Lamar came back from using the restroom or his cramps, Baker had actually led a game-winning TD drive, and the defense gave up what they gave up to Lamar Jackson. So as much as I will say that Baker Mayfield is going to have to stare down the quarterbacks that you mentioned, Stephen A., because you're absolutely right. It may come down to that particular situation, ball in his hand, in the game, got to make a play, got to get the ball downfield. I've seen him do it and answer last year. This year, 0-2. But to say they can't win a title, I lean on the things that you talked about, Stephen A. One, Kevin Stefanski got to throw the ball on 3rd and 9, right? And that may be an indictment on Baker Mayfield. But ultimately, if this is your guy, you got to throw the ball to try to not get the ball back to the Chargers. And second of all, when I think about Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb and this offensive line and the way that they're constructed offensively, this team can be devastating in a playoff run and allow Baker not to have to be the focal point based on what they want to do as a whole. So, yeah, I believe they can win a title with Baker Mayfield. But it's more about him costing them as opposed to him having to step to the forefront and be the main reason.
Okay, I want to focus in on something else. That would be Odell Beckham Jr. And I'll start with you, Stephen A. He has 9 catches on the season, no TDs. Obviously, he wasn't there the first few games. Does Odell need to be traded? Is this just not the right fit for him?
I don't think that the Browns need to trade Odell Beckham Jr. I think Odell Beckham Jr. needs to beg to be traded.
Why?
It's not a good situation for him as an individual. It's great for the team to have him because when healthy, he's an ultimate weapon. He elevates your vertical game. He opens things up for other dudes in Njoku and those boys that are going to be around, particularly if and when Jarvis Landry comes back. But the bottom line is this. That's the question mark as it pertains to Odell Beckham Jr. The Cleveland Browns don't need to move him, but Odell Beckham Jr., I'm not going to lie, I think he needs a better quarterback. And what I mean by a better quarterback, I'm talking about somebody who can really stretch that vertical game. Baker Mayfield can make throws, but he doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. Odell Beckham Jr. needs to be with somebody like Justin Herbert. He needs to be with somebody, and I'm not talking about just talent. Please don't get me wrong, because I'll mention Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert, the Dak Prescotts, the Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking quarterbacks with arms, Marcus. That's what I'm talking about, where it's nothing for you to fling that football deep all the time. That's why Deshaun Jackson in L.A. is such a big deal, because you got Matthew Stafford that can throw the ball deep. This is what Odell Beckham Jr., this is the kind of situation he needs to be in. You don't want Odell Beckham Jr., who's got some fragility issues because he's been hurt in the past. You don't want him, Marcus, slant patterns going over the middle all the time. He's just not built for that. You see what I'm saying? He can do it, but he ain't built for it. You need him to stretch that vertical game, and you need him with a quarterback who can do it. That's not Baker Mayfield. That doesn't mean he's not a gifted quarterback. That's just not who he is. And they know it, and that's not going to facilitate any kind of success for Odell Beckham Jr. That's why I think he needs to beg to be taken out of Cleveland for his own career salvation.
Stephen A., you're right in this regard. Now, I got to say, Baker
I think your mic fell. You got your mic?
You got me.
All right, I got you now. Go ahead.
Let me clarify that. Baker has an arm, but the guys you compared him to, it's not the same. So I understand where you're coming from. He has a strong enough arm. He can push the ball down the field. That's not the issue. And I don't think they should trade Odell Beckham Jr. because what we talked about earlier, when they get to that point in these games that they plan on being in, trying to contend for a Super Bowl, he's going to have to be a vital part to what they're trying to do. And remember, Jarvis Landry is out as well. And Njoku came up big last game. The tight end, Baker found him over the middle. But here's the deal with this particular situation. And I went back and forth on this because I know we're supposed to fight, but I went back and forth on this. OBJ is a feature wide receiver. And I think that's what you're saying, S.A. But I think in this day and age in the NFL, you got to have more than one. You got to have guys that can absolutely get downfield. And we got to get out of our mind the Odell Beckham Jr. from the New York Giants, making all of these plays. Not saying that he can't make them. He's not in that system anymore. He's not being asked to do what he's been doing, what he's done early in his career. So the bottom line is this. The Browns should not trade Odell Beckham Jr. because I really believe they're going to need him if they're going to try to go to a Super Bowl. It's about finding his place on a team that's run-centric and offensive line driven.
Tough one this weekend. Cardinals at Browns. Browns are favored by 3, and the Cardinals might be without Chandler Jones, so Baker might not have to deal with that. He's on the COVID list, but there's still a chance he could be good to go with 2 negative tests. All right, guys, still to come on First Take. Everyone knows Patrick Mahomes is a generational talent, except our guy, Bart Scott. Trust me, can't wait to hear Bart's take on Mahomes. Plus, It's fluid. Stephen A's list gets changed more often than a baby's diaper, but this week Stephen A is certain his top 5 is accurate. Okay, now that's in just a bit.
That's the thing about claims, you see. They don't happen on your schedule. I mean, take a chestnut.